Welcome back to the show. Dana and I are here to split hairs again.
Yes.
One of our favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to split a hair, Dana?
Not lengthwise.
Mm-hmm.
And first thing that popped in my head was looking at animals' stuff under a microscope when I was a vet tech and seeing how big actual hairs actually are. And that's sort of in my mind thinking, oh, that'd be cool to have something small enough to kind of get in there.
Yeah.
It's the closest I've come. But yeah, that's a good segue into this idea of cognitive stimming versus processing. Like my mind went there and I wanted to kind of do that. Yeah. Splitting a hair. That it's interesting that saying. People will say, well, that's splitting hairs. Usually you hear that word in a dismissive way. We split hairs more like what the word you used in the last episode, which was a nuance. And I do think talking about nuance is so important because it really lets people see their lived experience, and it's not exactly the same for everybody, right? So something like cognitive stimming, I think of as like singing something in my head or counting or visualizing something in even numbers or whatever. It's repetitive, right? It's a version of stimming. Instead of hand flapping, I'm doing it in my head.
Yep.
Cognitive processing that can kind of get mixed up with that is more like trying to cope with something that maybe feels undone or you didn't understand. I'm thinking about, like, especially in my really started in earnest in my early teens, where, and maybe, because you're having more social interactions then, probably had more people looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Or people tell me something bad, right? And so I would replay what had happened in my head, like verbatim. Like I'd say, I said this, and then they said that, and then I said this, and they said that. And I would do it over and over and over in my head. And that didn't feel like stimming to me. That felt like I was trying to work something out, right? And yeah, and that evolved to a place of where I would have to play the thing in my head X number of times, but it's just, and bear with me while I try to describe it because it's a lived experience that I'm not sure if everybody else is going to have. Where I would, in my mind's eye or even in my body, I would feel myself looking at it on the left side of my body and then the right side of my body, and then the right side of my body and then the left side of my body. And I was watching just last week, not movie. What's the thing when it's a movie, but it's about real stuff? Documentary on PBS about autism, which was actually fairly good. It had some stereotypes, but it was fairly good. And this one woman said, oh, I do this thing when I get to the theater where I have to do my knees a certain way. And the woman says, well, what do you mean? She says, I have to touch the left one and then the right one and then the right one and then the left one, and then start on the right side and then the left twice. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. Someone else has done that. And that idea of like repeating on the same sides with like one over here, two over here, one over here. So they're even, but you sort of go back and forth. And then you reverse it and do the first one over here and then two over here and then one over here. It's not an OCD thing. And it's never felt like that. It never felt like that even then. It felt like a way of sort of wanting to process it in a way that my brain and my body weren't that itchy you describe with like an OCD sort of thing. And it would help, right? I would do that. And then I'd be like, all right, I have it like packaged. I've run through it a bunch of times. I think I understand what happened, or if I didn't understand what happened, at least I had like a container on it. It felt like I was wrapping it up, so to speak, in my brain, in my cognitive brain. And then I could move on. Now, for me, it evolved to a place of doing some things with my breathing around that and holding my breath, which became problematic when I stood up in a restaurant one day and probably passed out because I'd been sitting there for like 20 minutes, probably barely breathing. And I stood, next thing I know, I'm on the floor and this guy's shoe, I'm on the floor and I have the scar up here to prove it.
No.
Yeah. And at the time I remember thinking, because I had never told anybody about what I was doing internally. I didn't know what it was. I just thought I was crazy. And I was like, oh, I got to stop doing that. And that was like this marker of where I stopped doing some of the breathing stuff with it because I passed out. I'm like, that's really bad. But would do more of that sort of wrapping it up, and then dealing with a lot of other older stuff in therapy. That sort of went away a little bit, but I'll still replay. Like if I have an interaction with someone at work that didn't feel right, I'll have to sort of close my eyes and imagine it. And did I miss something there? Did they give me a clue? And it is more about trying to pick up something maybe I missed now as a fully fledged brain. Um, and it's helpful, right? Maybe I missed something, or I get caught in a loop of not being able to figure it out. And then maybe I say something to my wife, can I run something by you? This person said that, this is what I said. What do you think? And then, she can sort of give me feedback of like, oh, I can totally see that. Or, oh, I wonder if they were coming from this place. And I'll go, oh, okay, that's one I hadn't thought of. So if I know now if I get stuck and I can't move on, but it's a processing thing more than a stimming thing. So when you sort of use those two words and delineate that, that's that splitting hair, but it's really important splitting hair because they're two very different things.
They're really, right? And like, this is what, this is what I really enjoy.
Yeah. Anytime after I got diagnosed, if I've doubted I'm autistic, I tell stories like that.
Every episode we do, Dana goes, oh yeah. Actually, bold that. Oh, underline that. Oh, italicize that. Oh, I know. I feel like I keep adding asterisks to mine, like neurotypical asterisks. I mean, with some isms. With that. It's like I'm probably at like 8 asterisks. Maybe we can figure out like how many asterisks does it make to tip you into, whatever.
Yeah. And my wife's like that, which is probably some of why we get along so well.
Yeah. Stimming to me has always been about comfort. It's something that's soothing and comforting. And so there's a felt sense of, what I'm counting, or, that idea of, and I don't do this. Like I don't stim. There are activities that I do that I really can get into, and I can lose sense of time and stuff, but I don't find myself stimming. So I feel like I'm talking about this just based on what I understand from the clients and the people in my life that I support and I'm with. Sure. But it's like, there is a comforting piece to that, which is why you and I have always had the stance that if the stim is not harmful,
right,
it should not be stopped.
Yeah, like I like putting my finger on either side of my veins here and making it fill up, and then just feel the bounciness of it.
Yeah,
it's not hurting anybody. I'm not cutting the blood supply off to my hand. Who cares?
No, it's not, and it's not like disrupting your environment or like the task at hand, or like. It doesn't matter. Like, so.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's.
Yes.
So, but I do think that when I hear some of my clients with the cognitive, like the processing, they're saying things over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I just actually went and did a school observation of this young man. This sweet young man. He's like 18 in his class. And he's doing like the most ridiculous independent work packet that has nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
Welcome to the public school system. I don't know what to do with you. You're a different kind of learner. Let me just give you independent work to do with your one-on-one aid in the back of a classroom. Okay, sure. Here we go.
Yep.
Anyway, he hates academic work because it's hard.
Yeah.
And he's being in it. He's needing to highlight its U.S. history. So he's highlighting it. And then there's a question. It's like, write 2 sentences about X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And he says, why 2 sentences? Why 2 sentences? Oh my God, why 2 sentences? Why 2 sentences? Why 2 sentences, right? And he's saying this over and over again. And I can see his aide, like, he has a really good aide. So his aide is just like, buddy, let's break it down. You got this. I'm going to help you with it. Like, we're good.
Cool.
But other people are like, knock it off. Stop it. This is a stim. This is a stim. This is
Oh.
a stim. And it's like, no, 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 no,
No,
no.
right when you said
This
it, when
is
he's like,
him.
"Why too?" I'm like, "Oh, he's trying to
Right.
break down the task." Yeah. Oh,
Right.
damn.
And he's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. Like, right. Like, it's kind of more of an
Yeah.
emotional reaction. Like, I'm
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
irritated. I don't want to do this. This is overwhelming for me. How am I going to do this? Right.
Yep.
So he's saying that over and over again. And I do see even like the repetition of even movie scripting. And this is like a really interesting one
Sure.
for me, Dana. Maybe you
Yeah.
can like
Yeah.
weigh in
Oh,
on this.
I love this one.
Right? Like I have a lot of clients that will repeat movie scripts and not in the context of conversation. So I have many clients who I'll say something and
Oh.
they'll give me a movie script about it and then we'll both giggle about it
Okay.
because I know where it's
Yeah.
usually
Because
from.
it sort of fits the situation.
Yes, totally
Okay.
fits the situation.
Yeah.
It's totally expanding it and jibing off of it and like it's funny,
Yeah. And like,
right?
here's a meme. There's this thing that fits the situation. Okay. Yeah. That's
Right? So
more of
that
like
I think is different. That's like a
okay. Yeah.
processing, that's a connecting, that's an elaborating.
Yes.
That's like a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
creative ADHD kind of mind,
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
going in
Yeah.
these different directions.
Yeah.
But then I've got clients that will repeat scripts in their out loud of an episode or a part of an episode of a movie, of a show that they like.
Just for the sake of repeating it.
Just for the sake of repeating it.
So that may be stimming is what
That's
you're saying.
stimming.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we stop either one?
Mhm.
I mean, it's so context dependent.
I play the same song over and over. Like I have a favorite band, and when they come out with a new album, this band came out with this new album over a year ago, and I'm still just listening to those 9 songs. I would drive anybody else stark raving mad. But
Yep.
they're in my headphones, and I'm doing it when I'm working out. Who cares? Or in my car when no one else is sitting in there. It's not hurting anybody.
Who cares?
And that does feel like stimming because I'll get to a certain point in the song that like I've worked really hard to master. There's one part where she kind of riffs really fast, and it took me such a long time to get the timing right and sing it along with her. And it felt so good the first time I got it all right. And now I can just do it. It just feels so good. And it's not a processing thing. That is stimming for sure. Feels like to me. Right.
And I guess
versus like when someone I'm bitching about one of my students a lot of times from Devil Wears Prada, the Meryl Streep character.
I know how much you love that movie.
Why isn't anybody ready? I love that because it's like it's content specific. And now I can do that as I'm grading, and my wife will come in. She'll say, "What?" I'll say, "Why isn't anybody ready?" And she knows what it is, right? So it's context. It's more of like a processing. I'm borrowing that to communicate to the other person. This is how I'm feeling. Yeah. Those are 2 great examples to delineate the difference between the 2. The irony is, you could probably do the same thing. You could do both of them with one thing. Do you know what I mean? I could use that, "Why isn't anybody ready?" as an illustration, and I could probably also stim on it.
Yeah.
And unless you know what's going on in the inner world, like your example with the little boy, why 2 sentences? Why 2 sentences? The aide could recognize right away the distress, and I'm going to help you break it down. Right. I know this is a processing thing.
Right. I've got to process a situation. I got to cope. Maybe it's even like a coping thing. Like I'm coping with the situation. Right. Yep. How about let's add let's split the hair another way, because man, this hair is like, it's not my current hair because it is thinning. Let me tell you, age is not a friendly, it's like not a friendly thing. But
and are we cutting it lengthwise or crosscut? Because
no, lengthwise. That's the hard. Okay. Yeah, like let's make it challenging.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to use my pull out my really good Japanese knife in order to do it. But and I guess that's kind of a good analogy, right? Because we do need to use our training to really do this, right? Our tools, right? Which is we have this difference between a stim to processing, coping. How do I understand this?
Right.
To OCD.
Yeah.
And how many times have we've done an episode on, is it stimming or is it OCD?
That's right. Yep.
So, we talk about OCD a lot here. And OCD always has that clear and present danger, threatening, persistent, intensive, distressing quality.
Yeah.
Which stimming doesn't.
And just to throw a bomb into the mix to add more, complex trauma. As you were talking, I was thinking of self-injuring. That can come in and eke in there in weird ways if you've got someone that has a trauma background, and that's the way you're trying to process it or deal with the emotion, and that can be the way that particular person is coping, right? I would never, as an expert in treating complex trauma, tell someone you need to stop that behavior unless it was life-threatening. If someone's like, I keep pounding my thigh to where it's bruising, I'm not going to say, just, you need to stop while we're working on this. We're going to talk about it. We're going to put it front and center. We're going to figure out what's going on there. But if they're literally cutting near an artery, I might say, we need to have it be something else right now. So there's all these other things that can sort of trickle in depending on the person, which makes splitting hair so important. And you're right. It's like what we do, right? We get in there and want to know which part of the hair is the cuticle and which part of the hair is the middle of the shaft and which part of the, know, it's important to delineate those. Why? Because you deal with them totally differently. And you even said with that example that the behaviorist is he gets it versus, or she gets it versus someone who didn't, who would just be like, you need to stop repeating that.
You need to knock it off.
Stop it. Yeah.
Just stop it. Stop it. It's just 2 sentences. It's just 2 sentences.
Yep.
Right? Which I see most of the time.
Yeah.
That's what I see most of the time. I don't see what I saw this last time, which was someone who was just like, you got this, buddy. I know this isn't your favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. But throughout that whole thing, I just got to see like, wow, his repetition is really him like coping and processing the situation. You know,
like why 2 sentences? Why does the book want me to do this? Who's making me do this? What does it mean to do 2 sentences? Sentences. What do you mean by sentences? I could see his little brain going through all that. Like, what is that? He's trying to sort out what the task is while being overwhelmed at the same time.
Yes. Totally, and then right before that, his highlighter broke.
Oh, I was thinking, I could imagine him highlighting everything too. Is that
right? I mean, right. Because can you imagine? I mean, how many neurodivergent peeps and folks
just
are like, you want me to pick the salient feature?
I talk about this all the time. It's like, that's why I like textbooks, because they have headings. You are about to read a paragraph about Diet Coke, and the next paragraph is about microphones. Because if it's just text and I don't know what's coming, forget it.
By the way, this is where I think AI is very helpful for people.
Yes.
You can put that text in AI and you can have it summarize it for you or pick out the big points. You can still read the paragraph and you can still have something help you with that. So that's been really
our disability support services department is excited about AI because it's really helpful for totally.
I think again, that's very nuanced as well. Like, how do you use AI as a tool, not to replace your work, but as a tool to enhance your work and understanding? I think,
because if I'd had that at that little guy's age, I'm supposed to pick out like the major point of this, and that would be like the header if I was looking at it. No one actually comes out and tells you that. They just expect you to know, right? 2 sentences.
I know.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So his highlighter broke. And it's so funny. Dana calls him a little guy. He's 18. And, and okay. And he says, oh, damn it. Damn it.
Because his highlighter broke.
Oh no. Damn it.
Oh.
He's just repeating this over and over again, to which his lovely aide says, what happened? It's broken. And like we have someone that's not asking for help, right? We're just kind of stuck here repeating what's happening. And his aide goes, oh, your highlighter's broken. Like, let's fix it. Let's get a different one. Right. But now it's a different color because, the yellow one's now broken. So now, here we go. It's just a setup, to which I'm like, is this task actually necessary? I'm actually at the point of like, have we audited educational activities for meaningfulness, functionality, and like an actual connection to what we might be doing in the real world after we leave the setting? I get to have that luxury of, of looking at that. But, he's not getting a diploma. It's like, no, why is he doing this?
Why would anybody have more than one highlighter color? That just stresses me out.
Okay, by the way, I'm talking about curriculum content and educating our youth. Dana is still stuck on the fact that there is more than
he was using. Oh my God, you gotta switch highlighter colors in the middle of this? There is no way.
There was just a pack of different highlighter colors, and when one color broke,
now I
Dana,
know why
only
he was
left
like,
the
why
other
2 sentences, and then oh no, I totally get it. And
by the way, why did the one highlighter color break? Is it because it's the only color that he uses?
Right?
I'm sure.
Buy this poor kid an entire pack of yellow highlighters. I stopped using highlighters when I realized if they're not stored just the right way, they dry out too fast. I'm like, I got a highlighter habit, and I gotta break it because it's too unpredictable.
I don't even know what we started talking about because
the splitting hairs between stimming and processing. And clearly something broke in that poor kid, and I get it, right? But it's such a great example of how the system would come down and just be like, what is, pathology, versus something as simple as, let's make sure this guy has a bunch of the same color highlighter. It's so easy.
And I feel like it's just like human effing decency.
Yeah.
At some point in time.
I would be able to handle. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't say anything. I'm crying because I'm laughing so hard.
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous.
You didn't have to say anything to somebody. It'd be this private struggle like, oh God, a different color. But when you're that age and you haven't learned all of those,
you don't have enough resourcing
out there. No,
right.
No, not at all.
Right. And by the way, I don't know when we thought that emotional regulation and distress tolerance magically comes into our bodies and our minds at some point of magical time, because the fairies and the sparkles and the sprinkles and the bunnies aligned. It's like, guys, we got to learn this as a skill. This is a skill. If we don't teach the skill, how do we expect people to use the skill? And when we don't teach these skills in schools, we have drastic things also happen. So anywho, we don't need to get into that, but these are taught skills.
Well, that's
so when
just
you
the
don't
thing.
teach people these skills,
a neurotypical brain is going to pick that up on its own, you could say.
Yeah.
But if you have a brain that isn't, or maybe not, but if you have a brain that isn't, I mean, for God's sakes, like you said, unless you teach it, how are you going to know?
Gotta teach it.
Yeah.
Gotta teach it. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, maybe we can have you guys weigh in on this, which is like, can you tell the difference? Like, what are your thoughts about this? Is there a difference between cognitive, what Dana called cognitive stimming, which is great, right? Processing, right? I've got to process this, understand this, deal with this, do something with it, and OCD. Something more kind of compulsive, right? Do you guys see those differences or experience those differences? That would be really cool to understand, because what are Dana and I missing? Like we're missing something else.
I mean, to me, the breathing thing, when I did finally pass out in that restaurant, the breathing part felt obsessive. That felt OCD-ish, and I was like, oh, this is bad. I got to get rid of this. And so there were all three components in that same behavior, but they didn't all start at once. They sort of layered slowly on each other. And just looking at it, I can see all the different layers. Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Don't hold your breath and then stand up fast. It's not a good idea.
By the way, it took Dana fainting to go, oh, crap.
Yeah,
that's bad.
Okay. Yeah.
That's bad. You know what I mean? So, All right, everyone. Well, be good to you, please. Like,
yes, yeah.
You know,
split hairs. That's a good way to be
split
good
the
to yourself.
hairs.
Yeah, split them.
Split the hair. That's a shirt. Dana, what's our so our hypothetical merch store looks like, because we have a really amazing hypothetical merch store, by the way, you guys.
Yep.
One is split the hairs. How about one is JOMO, the joy of missing out.
Yep. And then your thing that you say to your husband and the not sweating the small stuff.
Nunya.
I love that.
Nunya business. Nunya. It's just Nunya on the front and the business on the back. Ooh, it's almost like a mullet.
I totally know what you're talking about. A little
right, party in the front, business in the back.
The rest of it in the back, yeah.
So we got the Nunya, like we got the in your face, but we got the business on the back. Nunya business.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I love it.
Okay. You can leave your comment below. Would you actually buy anything from our hypothetical merch store? Just wondering.
Let us know.
All right. Be good to you, everyone. Bye.